The mystery of the Moai statues on Easter Island. Rising from the grasslands of a remote Pacific island, their stoic faces etched in volcanic stone, the Moai statues of Easter Island have captured the imaginations of people around the world for centuries. As the salty winds sigh over windswept hills and the ocean crashes relentlessly against rugged cliffs, these colossal sentinels stand vigil, witnesses to an ancient civilization's triumphs, struggles, and ultimate enigma. But who carved these monumental figures? Why were they created, and how were they transported across miles of rough terrain with only primitive tools? Thousands of miles from the nearest continental landmass, Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, as it is called by its native inhabitants, is a small speck isolated in the South Pacific. Measuring just 15 miles long and 7 miles wide, its windswept volcanic slopes might seem unremarkable at first glance. Yet scattered from its rocky coastlines to the grassy plateaus inland are nearly 900 moai, massive carved stone heads and torsos, some towering over 30 feet tall and weighing as much as 80 tons. Their strong jaws, long noses, and solemn gazes have inspired awe and debate ever since Europeans first set foot on the island in 1722. But to unravel the mystery of the Moai, one must first reach back into the origins of the Rapa Nui people themselves. The Polynesians, skilled navigators who journeyed across miles of open ocean, first settled on Easter Island around the 12th century AD. Oral tradition tells of a great migration led by King Hotumatua, who is said to have guided his people to this small, uninhabited island. Here, isolated from the rest of the world, they developed a fascinating and intricate culture, one in which the Moai would assume an essential, almost spiritual role. For centuries, the Rapa Nui civilization blossomed, constructing elaborate villages built from coral, wood, and stone. Central to their society was ancestor worship, a deep-seated reverence for those who came before, believed to possess the power to influence the well-being of the living. The Moai were representations of these revered ancestors, chiefs, kings, or spiritual leaders whose presence continued to protect and guide the community, even after death. But how did the islanders manage to carve and transport such massive monuments, some the size of small buildings, using nothing more than stone tools and their own ingenuity? This is perhaps the greatest intrigue of the Moai. The island's volcanic tuff, a relatively soft rock, became the canvas for these colossal creations. Once carved, the statues, sometimes weighing many tons, had to be hauled across rough and undulating terrain to platforms known as ahu, ceremonial stone altars that lined the island's coast. For generations, it was widely assumed that the statues had been moved using wooden sledges and ramps, hauled by massive teams of laborers. Some speculated the islanders used logs as rollers, contributing to the deforestation that ultimately weakened the Rapa Nui culture. But recent archaeological experiments and local oral histories suggest an even more astonishing method. The Moai may have walked. By rocking the statues to and fro with coordinated pulls on ropes, groups of islanders could have gradually stepped the Moai into place in an upright position. Modern experiments using replica Moai and teams of volunteers have shown that, with the right technique and coordination, a statue could indeed be transported this way, a remarkable testimony to the ingenuity and problem-solving of the Rapa Nui people. As the statues were moved to their final destinations, the people would assemble giant stone ahu at the edges of their villages. The ahu often contained the burial sites of important ancestors, with the Moai standing sentinel above, facing inland to watch over the living. Some Moai were crowned with enormous red stone hats, known as pukau, carved from a different quarry. Yet, as more Moai were erected and the social complexities of island life grew, the civilization began to experience deep stresses. Evidence suggests that over time, the island's resources became strained. Forests were felled for construction and agriculture, and possibly for moving the statues themselves. Soil erosion followed, agricultural productivity decreased, and the society entered into periods of strife. European visitors, beginning with the Dutch explorers under Admiral Jacob Roggeveen in 1722, found an island far removed from its former glory. Many Moai had been abandoned, some left lying in the quarries, others face down in the wild grasses. What remains today are not simply enigmatic sculptures, but ancient storytellers in stone. Each Moai is unique, painstakingly carved to reflect the identities and status of those they represent. Their expressions vary, from the broad, upright chins of the earliest figures to the more elongated forms of the later ones. In the modern era, the mystery of the Moai has captured scientists, explorers, artists, and dreamers alike. Archaeological discoveries continue to challenge assumptions. Excavations have revealed that most of the Moai, often described as heads, in fact have deeply buried torsos and arms, incised with intricate petroglyphs. Beneath the Moai, clues to lost ways of life abound. The Ahu platforms themselves are marvels of engineering, composed of massive, interlocking stones, each block precisely placed without the benefit of mortar, yet standing strong against centuries of weather. In these same sites, the bones of the honored dead show signs of elaborate burial rituals, reinforcing the Moai's role as mediators between the past and present. Yet for all the archaeological insight, Easter Island still keeps many of its secrets. The collapse of the Rapa Nui society, driven by environmental change, internecine strife, and European contact, remains a cautionary tale, one that echoes loudly in today's age of environmental vulnerability. The Moai are not just relics, they are warnings, carved by a people whose greatest achievements were also shadowed by the cost of pushing their environment to its limits. Modern descendants of the Rapa Nui have reclaimed their heritage, working to preserve and study their ancestral sites and revive the island's endangered language and traditions. Ritual dances and storytelling sessions pass on the legends of the Moai, weaving new layers of meaning into the statue's silent watch. International efforts have helped restore toppled statues, returning them to their Ahu platforms. But the greatest hope lives in the island's people, who see the Moai not simply as monuments of the past, but as living links to their identity. In exploring the mystery of the Moai, the imagination is stirred to envision the islanders laboring by torchlight, shaping an immense block of stone into the likeness of a beloved ancestor. One can picture the communal feasts as a new Moai is finally raised to its platform, set to watch over the community for generations. And one can sense the quiet pride of the sculptor, whose work, though centuries old, endures on a windswept plain, a testament to human creativity and faith in the enduring bond between generations. Scientists continue to probe the riddles of the Moai and their creators. Ground-penetrating radar, isotopic dating, and other technologies piece together the puzzle of how this civilization could have flourished and faltered on such a small, isolated stage. Some mysteries remain unsolved. What, for instance, was the ultimate purpose behind the pursuing of ever larger statues? Was it purely spiritual, or did it also intertwine with power, politics, and social standing? And while the walking theory has gained traction, debate continues over the exact methods used to transport these giants. But in some ways, the enduring power of the Moai lies not in the solutions to these puzzles, but in the questions they prompt. They represent the outer bounds of what humans can achieve when driven by both collective purpose and reverence for the past. Each Moai, with its impassive gaze, reflects not only the ancestors it was meant to honor, but also the ambition, resilience, and ingenuity of the civilization that created it. Today, travelers to Rapa Nui are greeted by a landscape unlike any other. Against a backdrop of rolling green slopes, wildflowers, and the endless blue horizon of the Pacific, the Moai stand as solemn reminders of both the achievements and cautionary lessons of past societies. As the sun sets, long shadows stretch across the Ahu, and the statues themselves seem to come to life, holding their silent vigil over the land, the sea, and the unbroken chain of human endeavor. The mystery of the Moai statues, then, is not simply a tale of ancient stonework. It is a story that bridges epochs and continents, speaking to something universal. It is about reverence for ancestors, the power of collective will, and the strategies a society employs to cope with the challenges of isolation, scarcity, and change. It is about how human beings, faced with awe-inspiring challenges, find ways to persist, adapt, and leave their mark upon the world. For the Moai will likely stand for centuries more, their faces weathering but their silent watch undiminished, inviting each new generation to ask, to wonder, and to seek understanding. Through the eyes of the Moai, we glimpse not only the enigmatic history of Easter Island, but also the enduring mysteries at the heart of humanity itself.